friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I'm here for another Monday this and that video where I talk about several different topics, leading you back to some videos more specific to whichever topic I'm covering, where you can get more information, giving you some updates such as garden updates and the like, and whatever else I feel like talking about. So let's get to the topics of today, starting off with those springtime herbs. So you might have seen a few different posts in my community section on YouTube, or if you're following me on social media sites like Facebook, Instagram, and X, you may have seen some of these things there as well. One of the main things has been the camellia flowers off my Camellia japonica, and as you can see in this image right here. And then now the dandelions have started flowering, though I will admit I try to be careful about how much I start harvesting from those early in the season. Since there's very few flowers opening up around here this time of year, I try to make sure I'm always leaving plenty for the bees. So I did start a batch. You can see it right here. It doesn't look near as pretty as it does in this picture of the camellia and dandelion flower vinegar. I started off with just camellia vinegar, but then when I realized my dandelions were flowering, I stuck some of those in there because it does then deepen the color of the vinegar, because the camellia that I have is a very light pink flower, and it doesn't turn the vinegar pink. It just turns it kind of a weird yellowish color. So I figured I'd just also throw the dandelions in there so it can add to the benefits as well as to the color. So a lot of people who are new will ask, well, what do you use that vinegar for? Everybody thinks I have a specific use for every single vinegar. Well, really, I have specific uses for the types of vinegar. And I don't know, that may sound like it's the same thing, but no, it's not. So for example, right here, I have grapefruit peel vinegar going. This is not something I would use in food because grapefruit peels can be very bitter. However, this makes a great cleaning vinegar. Then I have various different herbal vinegars I'll make, especially from flowers or other herbs that are really good for the hair. And so rosemary's one. I've got a rosemary one finishing up back in there that I'll make for a conditioning hair rinse wash, but I also use whatever flowers are coming in through the year. Though you can make them from dried flowers and other herbs, I like to make them fresh as the things are coming in. So that's what's happening here. I've already dehydrated up a bunch of camellia flowers for making infused oil. So if you saw that one post where I was asking the question, which one do you think I'm making currently? A lot of people were saying all of the above. Well, it might be all of the above eventually, but what one is going currently? Well, it was the vinegar, because right now I already have a lot of infused oil going with the dandelion flowers, camellia flowers, as well as lavender, calendula, and many other herbs for making my skin cream with. But the ones I'm dehydrating up now will be for future oils down the road. And then I do like to add these things to teas once I get enough dehydrated up that I feel pretty good about what I have put up. Then any extra coming in does go into teas or into making vinegars. I probably will never do a tincture with those particular flowers. I just was giving that an option to see what people would guess, and just for something for fun. And anyway, I do tinctures, but typically with things like these types of flowers, I'm more likely to do vinegars and infused oils than tinctures. So yeah, those are the two main springtime herbs I have coming in. The lemon balm is also taking off. It also makes a great cleaning vinegar, or a vinegar you can use. It's not one that I really care for the flavor of, so I wouldn't use it for food related things, but it could be good for also making an alcohol-free medicinal extract, where you're also getting the medicinal benefits of the lemon balm, or add to your chicken's water, because, you know, adding a little homemade vinegar to their water is really good for them. and good for their gut health and for your pets too. Though I'm not sure, I can't remember if lemon balm is safe for dogs and cats. I haven't looked into it. You would have to look into that. So whatever you're making your vinegar from, especially when you're talking about herbs, you got to make sure they're safe for your pets. I know they're good for chickens, like lemon balm and pretty much anything in the mint family. So anyway, if, like I always say, if you're new to my channel, you've never seen any of my vinegar making videos, my most thorough one is a few years old now. I'll link to it in the description box. Basically, I'm talking about how you can make vinegar out of anything, be it fruit scraps or herbs or whatever you have on hand. Oh, and another thing I did with some of my camellia flowers is that after the Feast of Unleavened Bread, I had that big box of yeast which included my fermentation starters, out of the house and as far away from the house as we could get. And I was bringing the liquid ones in, and I realized that, well, now would be a good time to refresh this honeysuckle. My honeysuckle flowers aren't coming in. And so I strained that out and saved all that liquid, put it back in the jar, and then added a bunch of camellia flowers in there to just give it a boost of some kind of new flower, at least until my honeysuckles start blooming. And then eventually I'll strain out the camellia flowers and replace those with honeysuckle again. And with that in mind, on the fermentation starters, again, I get a lot of people that are new to my channel and think, well, what is that? What do you use it for? Well, I have a lot of videos out on this. I will link to, again, my most thorough video. I have a lot of them out there, but you want the most thorough because through the years, either I find better ways to do things or try to be more descriptive of all the things you can use these for, or I've learned new ways to use them. So I will link to that in the description box down below. I will also link to the video I did on making homemade bread using the fermentation starter instead of dry yeast, or making a sourdough, in case you're interested in that. So yeah, that's what I use the fermentation starters for, all kinds of things. You can, just like with the vinegars, they start off very much the same way, but the fermentation starter, you only give it 3 days of fermenting. You just want it really lively and bubbly to use it to ferment anything. It can be sauerkraut, kimchi. When it comes to the vegetables, if you're looking for a brine-free way of doing things where you don't have to use so much salt, this is a good method to use. It's also the one you're going to want to use when fermenting sweet things, such as having some homemade soda or making wine or mead and other such things. You're not going to want to use a salt brine when you're doing sweet stuff, because that would just kind of defeat the purpose and taste nasty. It was something I'd learned about many years ago when I first started learning about making mead, and I found some information on making a ginger bug to use that as a starter instead of buying specific wine yeast from the store. And I've never used a dry wine yeast for making wines and meads. I've always used my fermentation starter. And then from there, it developed into me experimenting with all kinds of different fruits and herbs to see if I can make a fermentation starter out of anything, because ginger isn't, especially organic ginger, isn't always easy to find around here. Though I can, now that I have Azure Standards where I get my fresh ginger from, and it doesn't grow well for us here. But knowing I can make it from anything, from raisins to orange peels, dandelions to rhubarb, dried or fresh, I know that I can always have a fermentation starter to ferment anything I want, including making fermented hard-boiled eggs, which I plan on doing this week. Now that I've got plenty of eggs coming in, I've got enough to keep my customers taken care of and us taken care of for just regular eggs for baking and eating. Now it's time for me to get into making my hard-boiled eggs that I really love to eat as a snack in the middle of the day. A good source of protein, get a little bit of that fermentation in there, makes a nice kind of fizziness to the egg. It just increases the flavor, but it tastes like a hard-boiled egg with just a little more oomph to it. I will link to the video I did on fermenting eggs, the most recent one, except for just know I did put this in a pinned comment down below once I realized I made this mistake. As I was editing the video, somehow I cut out the part where I was topping the jar off with water. So just so you know that when you go to watch it, I do top the jar off with water, so it's completely filled. The eggs are completely covered when I go to ferment them. So anyway, a really great healthy snack and a good source of protein for sure. So now speaking of putting up the herbs, so those that I dry and I put up, I do like to vacuum seal. And I've been talking about vacuum sealing a lot in my recent this and that videos because I've been getting a lot of questions. Well, one of those is, I mentioned last week, I was charging because I never use it. I only really bought it to try it out. And this is the little battery operated vacuum sealer. If people have a hard time using the brake bleeder pump like I always do, this is a good option and it works really good. It's not, oh, it's charged up enough at least it's making sound because I only just plugged it in this morning because I realized, oh, I should show this. But if you're vacuum sealing a jar and you have a jar sealer top like this from Food Saver, you simply stick this over the top. If it's got the silicone here, it makes a good enough seal that will seal. Or you can take this off. There's two ways to do it. And stick this little peg down inside the hole and vacuum seal it that way. It's easier though to just leave this on. In fact, how I learned about this was a lady that she only has one arm that is a follower of mine had bought our vacuum chamber, and because she only has one arm, using the brake bleeder pump was just not an option for her. So she found using this with the chamber, I think she has like an adapter hose. I think she got an adapter hose and she just takes that little peg, sticks it in the adapter hose and uses that to vacuum seal with the chamber. Now, what's this chamber about? You heard, a lot of you know all about it. I know Deb, Blessed and Blooming Homestead, has one and she loves it. It's her favorite thing to use for vacuum sealing jars. Well, Patrick came up with this design based on another person's design, but did his own little tweaks to it. And because people back in 2020 couldn't find like these or other such things for vacuum sealing things in jars, because things like that were selling like crazy, or people were buying them up and then reselling them for an extreme profit, like $50 to $75 for a set of these. And so it was set meaning a wide and a regular. And so people were begging Patrick to come up with something that they could vacuum seal jars with. And so this was what he came up with. And I only use it if I'm vacuum sealing jars that are like product jars, such as the only ones I really get are artichoke hearts or the green olive jars that you get from Costco. I'll put a clip right here where it shows me using it to vacuum seal up nuts in. And so this is really good for those kind of things. It holds up to a quart jar and some little bit bigger jars when it comes to product jars. And somebody had said in a comment under another video that we weren't selling these anymore. We are still selling these. Patrick is still making and selling them. It is the half-gallon size that we're not currently making because of there's a certain part we have been unable to get and we're out of that part. And that would be this bottom part right here. And so if we can ever get that part again, he'll probably start making them again if people are still wanting a half-gallon. Just keep in mind the half-gallons are, because all the parts for the half-gallon are 2 to 3 times more expensive than the parts for this, the price is a lot more. So anyway, if you're interested in the chamber, and just email me at raincountryhomestead@gmail.com. I'll shoot you out the full product list, which includes the chamber, the seeds we sell, my skin cream, and a few other things if you'd like to look that over. And anyway, yeah, this is a really great method for vacuum sealing jars. And like I said, for me, especially product jars, but when I'm doing like canning jars, I just use these. And half-gallon jars are always wide mouth, so this works fine for a half-gallon. So that's why even just the quart size is enough for me. And then I wanted to show you guys real quick, I just got this gift in from the lady that actually wrote this book. She sent me this book. I don't know when I'll get to read it, but it looks like a good book. It's called Creation Needs a Sabbath. Time That Heals Was Never Just for Jews. Angel Tate Keaton. And so it was the writer herself that sent me this book, and it comes with this really neat bookmark that's magnetic. It's like a sandwich board type thing. So it's not going to just fall out of your book. I love that. What a neat idea. And she also sent me this little handmade plate from Israel, from a lady that makes these in Israel. So cute little plate. This would be a good spoon rest right here, or even like a votive candle holder. So I wanted to just show that and say thank you to Angel for sending that to me. It was a very thoughtful gift. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on again is that I had somebody email me the other day requesting that I write down all of my recipes. Well, what a lot of people may not know is in the early days of my channel, because I started my channel in 2016, I was just putting videos out there because I didn't have a lot of written recipes. So I was doing videos to show people how I do things and didn't have any of this stuff written down because I'd get people on Facebook asking me for a recipe. So I'm like, well, maybe I'll just go ahead and start making videos so people can see how I do things, because I don't always use measurements for a lot of the things I do. I just kind of eyeball stuff or use my hand, and I know roughly what is about a tablespoon and a teaspoon and things like that, or I'm just throwing stuff together and making something up on the spot. And so that's why I started YouTube. But then down the road, as people started really desiring more written recipes, I tried to be more conscientious about writing these things down and then typing them up for people. So they're typically offered in my newer videos, at least in the past maybe 5-6 years or so. I try to make sure I have them typed up, and they'll either be posted, the recipe itself, directly in the description box below the video, or I provide a link to Patreon where you can access it for free. Nothing there is behind a paywall. You do not have to have a paid subscription to follow me on Patreon and see anything I put up there, because none of my posts are locked down to only those who choose to donate. I offer, none of my content is behind a paywall. So everything I offer people when it comes to information is always in a form where you can get it for free. How I make an income off of that is by people watching my videos or letting them play. That's it. And these days, it's not much of an income. It is well below. It is a fraction of minimum wage for the time that goes into making all this content, both for Patreon, for Facebook, for Instagram, for X, and YouTube, and Rumble. So just a fraction. So just so you understand that. So if you're wanting a written recipe, make sure to look in the description box below the videos and see if I've provided either that link, again for free, or have just put the full recipe in the description box. So you don't have to email me and ask me about it. It should be there. And if it's not, it's just something I haven't gotten around to, or it's from an older video. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Any thoughts, ideas you'd like to share, please put those in comments down below, because not only do your comments help other people learn a little bit more, it also helps keep my channel out there at least a little bit, where at least my own followers can see it sometimes. And thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.